Welcome to Biggest Geekest. We're your hosts. I'm Joe.
And I'm Patrick.
This is episode 180 of our show, and the date is Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Yes, you will notice that this is not Randy. Randy, unfortunately, is not himself in the hospital, but he's with his mother in the hospital. She's very ill. So
taking care of Mom.
First, need to go out for Mr. Randy and his mother. So,
and I will do my best to take over his spot. Well, not permanently, of course. People stop watching.
Yes, thank you very much for filling in, Pat. Really appreciate that. So we're going to talk about some things that have been out there in YouTube land and perhaps out in social media as well, I'm sure. But have you had any gaming this week, Mr. Pat?
Yeah, I'm in a regular Friday game with Mr. Trombley and the Adrians and Mr. Sanborn.
Cool. And what game? What kind of game?
It's 5e DnD. I know. Ooh. But we're going through an adventure path from Pathfinder.
Oh, okay.
Curse of the Crimson Throne, I think it is.
Is it any modified rules, or is it just straight 5th edition?
He has some modified rules. Like one initiative. Initiative is like straight from Savage Worlds, where we use a deck of cards. Not sure if I like it all that much, because sometimes a lot of times I get the bad draws, and I happen to have a high dexterity, and it's like, why is this not helping me?
Well, because he's combining a system outside of 5th edition, and there's perhaps if he really wants to use the cards, perhaps you could suggest that high dexterity folks might get an extra card or something like that.
Iron Man, Randy himself is not in the hospital. Randy is fine. He's just taking care of his mother, who is in the hospital.
Yeah, it's Randy's mom. Thanks for the well wishes, folks. I did not get to play, but this Friday, Black Wall is going to be DMing some more Horde Wars, which we will be live streaming here on the channel. So,
yeah, Hungar, I shaved, and I got a vocal change, and
dyed your hair.
Yeah, dyed my hair.
All right, so we're going to be talking about some stuff that I was looking through YouTube videos. I have a dog, Sparky, that is declining. He's 15, and he's doesn't get around. But
about that time.
Yeah, so while I'm sitting there with him, keeping him company, I'm scrolling through YouTube to see what might be interesting to watch. And apart from a lot of I ran into Metatron. I never watched any of Metatron's stuff. Have you watched anything? Do you know who Metatron is, Pat?
Yes, he does really great deep dives into a lot of biblical subjects, and the Ancient man knows his stuff.
Yeah, and so I'd heard of Metatron, but I'd never watched any of his stuff, and it was pretty enjoyable. So while in between that and a couple other things, I noticed a kind of weird thing, and I mentioned it last week with this thing about no attack roll and taking an attack roll out of your game and removing hit points from your game and a couple other more newsy items, but Xandering.
Oh God. Yeah.
And
instead of jaquazing the dungeon.
And the whole the history of D&D book that people said this is a video on the history of D&D, and I was like, it's only half an hour. How much of a video on history of D&D can this really contain? And it doesn't have a lot. He does mention a couple of things, but mostly it's an ad for a book. a
Yeah,
half hour
and
for
the guy who talks about he talks a lot of crap for a guy who looks like he's been told by Chris Hansen to take a seat a time or two.
right. So we're going to start with the Xandring versus Jaquaing thing. I saw it on a video by Dungeons and Discourse.
Yeah, she's pretty funny.
So I thought it was going to go a particular way, and it didn't. Particularly because one of the titles of her video was the Donald Trump of D&D and had Gygax in there. So
Yeah.
I guess that's her opinion, but I don't even know. Sometimes it's just clickbaity. I didn't watch it, but in her video, she discusses the whole thing, and it's a very, I think, fair treatment of it.
Yes.
And she doesn't go ballistic or anything like that. Essentially, I don't even have the guy's name written down here so I can remember it.
Justin
Alexander?
I think it's Justin Alexander.
Okay, so he runs the website The Alexandrian, which is apparently very popular.
What's extra stupid about this is he coined this term.
Yeah.
Jaquaing the dungeon.
Right.
He kind of invented the whole term and the concept and gave that credit to Janelle Jaquays.
Yeah, that's what he called himself, yeah.
And his lawyer told him that he shouldn't call it that in his book because of, maybe some legal repercussions.
Potential liability.
Totally possible. And that's what he went with.
Sound just went out for me.
You can't hear me?
Can you hear me?
Else? Yeah, I can hear you.
Hold
Can
on.
everybody else in chat hear me?
Did his sound go out for everybody else? This sucks.
Hello out there. Live, everybody. Oh, well, Flint can hear us both. As can my wife.
Yeah. Okay,
well, anyway,
so obviously it's on my end. Hold on. I will.
Oh, okay.
Let's see here. Where's that stupid program? I've got a program that says that it can fit. There it is. Okay. Can you speak again, please?
I am speaking to you now, live from about 4 blocks away, since you live really, really close to me. Live from Michigan, it's Tuesday night.
Still not hearing you.
It's going to be very difficult to hold a conversation.
Okay, still not. I unplugged my headphones to see if it was the headphones that were screwing up, but it's not. Let's see here. This is what everybody wants to hear. Well, we even verified and everything, and it worked fine before. It just all of a sudden quit.
Wizards usually have that temperament.
My sound is such a quitter.
For shorting out electronic equipment, or putting the gremlins in all the electronics. And you and I are both prolific wizards.
So I've got this program, because you guys can hear me, right? So I've got this program running that's showing. Oh, now it just disappeared. Boy.
A wizard did it.
No.
I could be totally using this opportunity to talk about Joe behind his back, and he would never know. This guy right here. Oh, what a maroon. You know what? Flint does have a point, And I guess I mustn't disappoint.
All
Back in a moment.
right. So I don't know why that happened. What, you going somewhere? I just got the sound to work and now he disappeared. Typical. So yeah, you were saying that he made the term up. So you were saying he made the
Flint,
term
just
up.
for you.
Yeah. So you were saying he just made the term up himself. He made the term up himself, and now his company decided that they wanted to be cautious and have him change it.
The only reason that anybody is upset about this is because Jaquays is trans and part of a marginalized community, because that's the main thing, is like, oh, I changed it to Xandering the Dungeon, and everyone's like, you're trying to erase a trans person. Otherwise, nobody would care.
Yeah, and he didn't erase anybody. In fact, it probably gave Jaquays more visibility, the whole controversy. So I think that apart from the Dungeons and Discourse channel, people on that side of the fence are the ones who are very hurt about it.
Yeah.
And there was really no. I don't see that there's any. I know that a lot of people like his site and his works. I have barely consumed any of it. So
don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against Janelle Jaquays.
No,
I really don't. This person was an adult who made a choice to do what they wanted, and hey, more power to them. And no, I don't wish death on anybody, but died of Guillain-Barré syndrome, I think.
Why are you saying no, El? We just said the same thing you're saying. The publisher said don't use Jaquays. That's what we're saying.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah, for legal reasons. Right, and apparently Jaquays and his widow said, we just want you to spell it right or whatever, repeatedly over the years. And, that's a separate issue. And I don't really know that how big an issue it is. I just saw, a couple of people referred to it. Whatever.
He's
publisher, probably someone in legal who's in their publishing department. So whatever, the publisher.
Yeah.
So correction. Anyway.
Publishers have lawyers too.
Yeah.
And they're the legal eagles that usually say this wouldn't be a good idea if you attach somebody's name to this.
Yeah, we did say publisher as well. Anyway, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
No.
I think it's, like you said, it's made a bigger deal because Jaquays, is trans or was trans
group.
And, well, however you want to consider that. He voluntarily stepped into it. I don't know that he was marginalized at all. I guarantee you his life didn't change a whole lot for the worse, except maybe getting some, flack online.
And so what if it's called one thing or the other? There's a lot of these videos that you had me watch are of people who think that they invented some concept that's been done before.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's possible too. I don't know that Jaquays invented dungeons that you can get from one level to the other without just one spot, right? I think that's essentially what it was. There's multiple places where you can get from one level to another, or maybe way deep, and there's lots of different ways you can go through the dungeon. There's not just one path, is what they called it. And I don't know that Jaquays invented that.
Gary Gygax did that when he had the Tomb of Horrors.
What's that?
Gygax did that when he wrote Tomb of Horrors.
Okay.
There was more than one entrance to that dungeon.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I'm really just not. I think a lot of his dungeon drawings and his art with that regard are neat looking.
I have
a lot of work that a lot of people like, so that's cool.
I have a module for the old Ghostbusters role-playing game called Pumpkin Patch Panic, and it has a very, very nice piece of artwork on the cover, and one of the Ghostbusters on the front, you can read the name patch, it says Jaquays.
Right.
And I think he was credited as Paul back then.
Okay. So good art. A lot of people liked it, and he deserves that credit. He deserves all that credit. But saying that Jaquays invented that concept is probably going a little too far. And, you know, I guess the big thing, like we're saying, Zandring versus Jaquays doesn't erase any of that.
No.
Because people like the work. They don't care about that terminology.
He's rather prolific in the gaming community, and he was very big amongst the early pioneers of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Did a lot of work in video games, artwork, all that great stuff.
David asks if he.
I don't think
that.
No, he didn't. He never made that claim.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard that. All I've heard is the Alexandrian guy coined the term and made that claim.
Yeah, and said that he was the most prolific in kind of using that model for dungeon design. And I think it just came out that he was trying to say that he kind of like invented it, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's just been made a big deal of.
Yeah. All right. So great art, not erased. I think the internet can move on. Which is pretty much what Dungeons and Discourse lady was saying. She didn't particularly care for how it was done, but okay. All right. Next is the History of D&D video that I was appointed to last week to watch because it was supposed to have been horribly awful, and I was kind of wondering where the horribly awful part came in while I was watching the short video until it was only the last 2 minutes.
But they had to sneak it in there though.
Right. So they went all over all this stuff. I really didn't care for the author's presentation style, the way his mannerisms were kind of pretentious, but in my opinion, and honestly, it's a book filled with reprinted D&D material from way back. So I'm not sure how much original work is in it.
The guy who decided to throw, Gary and company under the bus, though, like I said, he talks a lot of crap in those last couple of minutes. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. He kind of...
David Gwill asked if WotC made it. Didn't WotC make it? They made it look like this one fella did it. I didn't look closely at credits, so I don't know whether or not it's a work that they commissioned him to make, and he's just their employee. But they made it out that he is the author.
Diversity and Dragons did a kind of deep dive on said video and looked at a couple other videos this guy has done. And one part I latched onto is this guy has said in a video, I'm wrong a lot. I went, wow, yeah, you are. And you may just be wrong here too, buddy.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff he said in that interview, and I just recently watched those two documentaries that Randy from the episode before. Um, so almost everything he said was stuff I already knew. So it was kind of like, okay, knew that. And I am one of the least informed on the history of D&D of most D&D players of my age. And I knew all that stuff already. So I'm not sure how much extra that's going to offer somebody, especially when a heck of a lot of that's reprinted. So I wonder what the percentage of reprint to original work is in that.
I mean, I realize I'm the youngin' here. I'm only 43 years old,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, I still cut my teeth on Beckme.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first D&D, and you know, I learned a lot about it, and you know, I just can't. I How opinions change so badly for people who have claimed to have worked for a long time on the game, and then how we just we tend to crucify our heroes, and it really bothers me. And the guy's, and I have a hard time listening to a guy who starts every single one of his videos with, I have a PhD in blah 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 blah. That usually, if you have to like list off your credentials before you start talking about a subject, I'm pretty sure that means that you don't have a real logic leg to stand on.
Who's
You have
that?
to push out your credentials.
Who is that? The guy who did this book?
Yeah.
I'd never seen that guy before.
Jason Tondro. I think that's what chat's listing him off as.
So he has other YouTube content?
He has plenty of other YouTube content, and usually he starts all of it with, "Hi, I've worked in the industry for X number of years, and I have a PhD." And
well, I can understand him having
X, Y,
a
and Z.
video where he says, "This is who I am, and here are my credentials." A video, but not all of them.
Yeah, he just really strikes me as a, well, I think Cal said it best, a toady.
Well, that's what I got the feeling he was pretentious from that interview. But anyway, not really wanting to do a whole lot of name calling.
Right.
But I didn't see a whole lot of value in that book. And then they go in at the very end, because I was waiting for it. It's not like they peppered it throughout the whole thing, but it's at the very end. They said, well, we have to acknowledge that. And I'm like, no, you don't. Okay. So maybe he is under some kind of contract, and they kind of, with the contract, held a gun to his head and said, you need to acknowledge this, or we won't let you make this book. That's a possibility, but he might be from the interview. I got kind of the feeling that he's part of the crowd anyway.
It was all about white men back then. Ooh, them white men.
And how much of a historian, researcher, PhD person is he if he can't open up some of the most earliest products and see that there are a lot of different sorts of people depicted, like the white books or whatever color they were when the original D&D, I think they were white, and they showed an Arab, an African, a woman. I mean, how dare they? But they weren't all white in their depictions. And I guarantee you there's a lot in their Appendix D. I'd have to look at it over again, where you could find a lot of what they would call diversity in there. It's not all, hooray to white folks books. I mean, it's just fantasy.
I don't remember talking this much about race other than who's playing a dwarf and who's playing an elf.
Right. And they mentioned something about, well, it wasn't very inclusive back then. And I'm like, all right. You
The-
didn't play D&D with anybody that wouldn't have accepted whoever,
That's
unless
like
they
the
were stinky, maybe,
that's
at
like
your
the
table
biggest lie that they tell themselves
all the time.
is we were somehow not inclusive, that we gate kept the hobby. Do you know how rare it was to find somebody who would play D&D with you? We
Right.
took
So,
everybody.
yeah.
And in hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have.
Well, if to be honest, if they were real weirdos, I mean, we're already a bunch of weirdos who want to play D&D anyway. We talk about nerdy things. We're like, we should use a D20 for this. We get really into some minutia, game minutia and stuff. So some people would consider that weird and dorky. But there's also other kinds of weirdos that, if you creep everybody out at the table, they're probably going to not want you to come back. Or if you creep out, we've had somebody creep out the daughters of one of the people that we gamed with, and he was asked to go away.
Yeah.
So, if you creep out people, you stinky and you never take a shower, don't do anything like that, your hygiene is poor, you may not have a place at the table. But
I have had more than one person creep on my wife before.
yeah,
While I'm sitting next to her, even.
and you don't want to be around that.
No.
And the introduction to the first edition AD&D Player's Handbook in the I don't know if it's the acknowledgments. I'd have to. Do I have it handy? I probably. Yeah. Hold on a second. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's in the forward here, written by Mike Carr. And D&D players happily come in all shapes and sizes. Even a fair number of women are counted among those who regularly play the game, making Dungeons and Dragons somewhat special in this regard. So the game has always been accepting of all kinds of people. It's just dumb. They can't even realize that, being historians and seeing all the people that they probably just had no problem playing with at their own table.
My wife was already a D&D player when I met her.
Yeah, me too.
So
my wife too. She was a DM as well. So sure, it's heavily male. Sure, especially initially, it was heavily white, pale folks, because the game originated in white folk country,
what is it? RPG Elite, I think, is his name. He's a black YouTuber.
Yeah.
Talks about gaming.
Right.
He has actually a fascinating video for why you don't see more people of color in the hobby. And they're perfectly valid, logical reasons why. And
it's not their thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're more into athletics and being outside.
And that dovetails into the whole thing that people are crowing now that, gaming or role-playing games are for everyone. No, actually they're not.
They're not.
Now, can anybody be a gamer? Sure. Is gaming for everyone? No. No more than football is for me.
Right. I put it, D&D can be for anybody, but is not for everybody.
Yeah. And I realize I'm in a minority of guys who don't watch or even enjoy football.
Right.
It's not for me.
Right. Not because you hear people say so, all you dudes out there, all you do is watch sports. And like, no, there's a fair amount of men who don't like watching sports.
No,
I used to watch some, but I've never got into the rivalry thing. So a lot of it goes over my head, or I just don't care. Why do you guys hate these other guys? Well, they're on the other team. Are they bad people? No, they're on the other team. So we hate them. So stupid.
And that's how we've boiled down all politics in the U.S.
Right.
now. They're on the other team. We must hate them.
Right. We must hate them. So when I watched that video, I was like, well, $100 for the book is, I'm not going to buy it just because it's an expensive book. It'll probably be a coffee table book for a lot of people. You'll just sit it out and say, look what I have. I have a book on the history of D&D, blah, 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 blah. And
Nerdy Ogre, I would take that that retelling of that. D&D is for everybody, but not everybody is for D&D. I can accept that.
yeah, that's what I just said. Oh, no, that is a little different, but right. Essentially the same thing. Oh, no, that's not it. So Mac got in late. Randy is taking care of his mother who's in the hospital sick. So
sorry you have to deal with me today.
Yes. All right. So, and we're doing this because I want everybody to know how to think on these subjects. So,
yes,
of course, yes.
Everybody
Not what to think,
here,
but how.
Yes, everybody must
actually,
agree with these opinions.
Yes. Must. So there's also, I mentioned this last week. Or do you have anything else to say about those two topics?
Not really.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of a lot of content out there about the history of D&D that you can consume for free. I think even on the Alexandrian, I'm pretty sure he has some history in there, and you don't need to spend $100 to be told you're a horrible person for being white. So how about don't give people who hate you money? Right. So there are two other issues that I see several people have videos for, and that is take hit points out of D&D and or take the attack roll out of D&D. And I think some of this comes on the heels of or associated with MCDM's new RPG, and in it, although there's other games that have done the same thing, instead of having an attack roll, you just do damage.
Yeah, and everybody's treating it like, including I think Matt Colville, is treating it like he invented this concept. Sorry, 13th Age beat you to it.
Well, you do an attack roll.
You do an attack roll, but you'd
have miss damage.
You have miss damage.
Yeah.
But you are always doing something.
Right.
So it's not something brand new.
Right. And even with 13th Age, some things don't get a miss damage. So it's not universal.
Yeah, even the MCDM RPG, which I really hope it gets renamed, because
I thought it got some name, I just can't remember it.
You can't have that big of an ego. That'd be like me. I promise everybody here right now that when I put out a role-playing game, it's not going to be called the Patrick Demo role-playing game.
Right. It'll be something pithy, some pithy thing. Right. So some people, they want to take out the attack roll because it's going to speed up combat, because you're doing two rolls with an attack and damage, but with just the damage roll, you just have one roll, as if we can't all roll attack and damage at the same time anyway. So it's kind of weird. I think that, and the other video that I watched, well, I didn't watch it because I thought the title was dumb, that it's not fun to miss an attack roll. So don't do attack rolls. Just make everybody hit all the time.
Boo hoo.
Yeah. So
you can watch like Lord of the Rings or any other giant fantasy epic. Sometimes the heroes miss.
Right. And sometimes when they miss, they get the crap beat out of them. And then later on, they might turn the tables on that person who had beat them earlier.
I think it just comes from the participation trophy generation of everybody's got a, it's not fun to lose. Everybody needs a trophy. Everybody needs a pat on the back for doing a good job.
Imagine the game of chess, and whenever you move your piece, right, you always take another piece, right? You're always doing something that is fun. Oh, I'm just moving forward. This isn't fun. I have to take one of your pieces. I mean, it's kind of stupid, but some people just wanted to speed up the game. Other people are on the fun crowd, and fun as in, everything has to be positive for them. It seems like. I don't know what their real position is apart from just saying it's not fun. I don't know why it can't be fun for you to miss one of your attacks that you're going to have over the course of maybe 10. I mean, there was 5th edition these guys were talking about.
I think David Gwill has it kind of nail on the head. Failures and the actual chance of failure makes success meaningful.
Right.
Well, it does. I get that there are some nights, like 2 weeks ago, I spent every single combat. First turn, one-shotted, out for the entire combat. Spent most of the time on my back bleeding out. And no, that wasn't fun. Actually, I got rather annoyed. But, I don't cry anytime it's like, oh, cast firebolt. Yeah, damn it, I missed him. All right, well, try again next time, or maybe I'll try a different spell.
Right.
It doesn't. I don't always have to hit to have fun.
Right. Well, a couple people have made some points. L is saying that, Joe, there is no meaningful story to be written by missing a punch. And then Nerdy Ogre says trophies. And I agree with both. Some people just want, they want the accolades without any meaning. This is the what he should have said is participation trophies.
And I think L's getting at the the leaning into making everything all about making them story games instead of just a role-playing game. Yeah,
let's see what the story becomes.
And even in stories, sometimes the good guys fail. Sometimes they trip up. Sometimes you slip off the cliff and have to try and catch yourself on the way down. It's part of the process. If you have everything, if everything is successful, you're just boiling it down to, okay, instead of us rolling dice today, it's like, you guys encounter an ogre. Why don't you guys all tell me collectively how you defeated the ogre?
Right.
And then I'll pass out treasure.
Right. So they want it to just be fun, which is fine. We want a fun game.
13th Age came awful close to that, and I didn't really like that too much.
Right.
The whole, there's 5 traps in this dungeon. Go around the table, describe how you got past each one of these traps.
Yeah. I'm not too fond of the whole narrative thing. And what Elle was talking about with the story thing is people want their role playing to be like either a movie or a book or a comic book maybe. And that's not the game. It's a game. So in a story, for a story.
Hi, folks. I guess I'm by myself today.
Oops.
Joe has.
Anyway,
welcome back.
Yeah. I brushed a button on my mouse and got dumped out of the.
Oh, I mean, I could have tried and take credit for it.
Yeah, you zapped me out, but
which.
Do you weigh as much as a duck?
I don't know.
Don't have a duck handy
around to weigh myself.
Right. So a game has a story, but a book story or movie story, if you constantly churned through characters and didn't have a coherent beginning, middle, end in a book or in a movie, that would be really jarring for most people and not very enjoyable for most people. I don't know any stories that do that except maybe slasher movies where everybody in the beginning ends up dead and you change through different. I mean, you could do a horror game and you don't have to change anything about the game to make it like a horror movie, but that's a horror movie. That's not a fantasy movie.
Yeah, with emergent storytelling in gaming, a lot of times those stories that come from the games can actually be more enjoyable than stuff you might read in a book, because, well, it's kind of the player's tale, and the gamification and the dice rolls and the foibles and adventures that you have make a better narrative than anything you could watch on the big screen. At least that's
especially nowadays.
Yeah.
But we get different enjoyment from a game than we do from a book,
Mm-hmm.
than we do from a movie even. And the book enjoyment is different from a movie because of the movie, you just sit there and you absorb. I mean, some movies make you think a little bit, and that's fine. But with a book, there's a lot more to the absorption of the media than in a movie. Although I guess it's different because the movie has more visual. It may be comparable. Anyway, but those are all different from a game.
Yeah, and you can have all those things in a role-playing game. It's just you can't have more one than the other.
Because people complain about plot armor in movies. Because having no attack roll because it's no fun, that's plot armor in a game. And you don't need that. You just, if your character dies, you make a new character.
Mm-hmm.
But people want to have, I mean, I like having a long established character. That's cool. But it's not essential for me to have fun at the table. And having a failure, which results in the death of your character, is, it's not fun. But over the course of the many years I've played the game, I can say it's been fun. I've had a bunch of characters die. It's not the end of the world. That folks who say it's not fun, we can't have attack rolls because it's not fun, doesn't really go together, in my opinion.
And I like having a story in a game, but I don't want the story to overtake the game.
Right.
I mean, when I'm a DM, yes, I do have kind of a story in mind, but it's the basic beats of the story, and what I enjoy is seeing how the players get through it. And with any two groups, those could be radically different.
Right. So there's that particular, it's not fun. Hit points are, and taking hit points out of the game. One of the comments that I saw was, because hit points aren't well defined, we should replace it with something else. And I don't know what what your experience is with the game, but in my reading of the game, they always define hit points. This is what hit points are. Now, I don't think that definition really matches what they are in the game, but they are defined.
And here's my suggestion for people who want to replace hit points with something else. Go play another game.
Right, because once you take out the hit roll, because some people want to take both the hit roll and the hit points out, and then why do you want to play D&D? I mean, there's some things, I know there's some things that define D&D, and rolling the D20 is the primary definition of, hey, we're playing D&D. Let's roll that D20. You don't have to have crits. You can have Thaco, or you can have Ascending Armor class. Those have both been in D&D for a while, but You take out the D20 and the damage roll. Oh, you're starting to play a different game. So L says Dungeon Craft. Yes, had a video with Luke Gygax.
Okay.
And to me, the title, the secret house rules from Gary Gygax, and there weren't any, except he didn't use the weapon versus armor table. That's it. There were no secret Gygax anything, and even if there were, I thought I was watching it because I wonder what they are. Kind of curious, but when there weren't any,
I am a little interested in Gooey Cube's upcoming Kickstarter for a campaign setting called Gizengax or something like that.
Right, he was on that video as well. They were, talking to Luke Gygax. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't read them for folks that are not watching, and it was only up for a very short time. Shh. So yeah, so some people want to take both out and go play another game if you don't like either or both of. I mean, both of these things taken out of the game, you're pretty much ditching D&D for something else.
You're ditching all the game elements and saying, just tell me how you defeated the dragon.
Right. You can. Okay. There's
Make
that.
it interesting, and I'll give you some extra points.
The easiest way to deal with your upset about the definition is to not worry about the definition. Because even though in the games, I'm not sure about 5th edition, in the other editions of the game, it says all this stuff about there's some luck mixed in and this, that, and the other thing, when it really is just your health. It's not the other things. Because everything that recovers your hit points in these games, in the D&D games, is a healing potion, cure light wounds, regeneration that regenerates your physical body. It doesn't regenerate your luck or your exhaustion or any of that stuff. It gives you your health back. So just ignore that incongruous definition and just stick with what it actually does. You heal your health. And then that would be fine.
I'm okay with there being kind of nebulous definitions for hit points. I mean, Earth Dawn, your health pool or hit points or whatever, they're also used to power some of your like special attacks, and that damage is called strain. So it's a mixture of your meat hit points plus your physical stamina for being able to perform feats and stuff. And
what in 5th edition?
No, for Earth Dawn.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm just okay. That's fine for Earth Dawn.
And once you get down to a certain level of hit points, you fall unconscious, and then if you lose all of them, you die. But other than that, you can gain wounds, which make you less able to do things. Wounds actually kind of mean something in that game. I mean, it's okay because healing potions still do the same thing to you. They recover those precious resource to keep you on your feet.
Right. For D&D though, all hit points do is keep you from dying. So once you've lost them all, you die. And even though they want to make it more abstract, there's no other way to get hit points other than resting and recovering and being treated for your wounds. It's not like those points are only partially recovered. I mean, you use enough cure light wounds, you get all your hit points back. There's not a additional restore luck spell or potion.
Yeah,
so
that's a little weird.
So making it out to be one thing when in use in practice, it's something a bit different. And then you have folks that are complaining about it being, not well defined, which I disagree with. It just, the definition doesn't match what it does. So they want to take out hit points and just do the wound thing like a lot of other games do.
Folks, remember what they've taken from us.
And I think a lot of these folks, and I'm saying these folks, a lot of these folks, they're also concerned with speed of play. So the attack roll issue, the hit point issue.
Overly concerned.
Yeah, overly. Because it's like folks who, and I'm pointing a little bit at my wife, who want to listen to everything, all their podcasts and all that stuff, books even, at double speed or whatever, because they just got to get through it. Is that the kind of the attitude? I don't know if it is, because I don't know. They just say they want it to be faster. And all these people are like, faster play, faster combat, faster play.
A lot of people that I've been listening to are like, oh, this makes combat faster. Let's do this because it makes combat faster. We want to get through combat. Well,
once you've gotten through combat, what are you going to do?
Yeah, then you just get back to talkie.
Yeah, town stuff.
And then what are you going to do? Is it going to boil down to everybody make an attack roll? Just roll a d6. If it's a 4, 5, or 6, you hit and kill the bad guy. If it's a 1, 2, or 3, you missed. Oh, but we can't have that anymore. It's just roll die to defeat bad guy. And a lot of people are pushing some of these systems where it is just like that. It's like Fireball does 3 hits to everything, and most things only have 1 hit. And they're dead. I mean, 13th Age already presented us with mooks, and they were working just fine.
Yeah, I think that mechanic can work well. But Professor DM in his video concerning this topic, take out his faster combat is you don't roll damage for your hits. You just roll for most monsters. There'll be many of them that you don't use this rule for, and you don't use it for the PCs. You get, instead of calculating hit points and then your damage, it's in hits. So this monster only takes 1 hit to kill. This monster might take 3. And his example was this monster, I can't remember what it was, has 59 hit points. The average of these attacks would take it out perhaps in 4. And so this you kill it in 4. I don't see the value in that, because you're doing the same thing. It has X number of hits. Maybe a lot of them, it's only 1 hit, but why should you? What's so hard about subtracting whole numbers? It's weird that I know the DM might feel put upon by having a few monsters and making sure that you're subtracting everything when you're doing your hits correctly. But I never really had a problem with it. It's not that hard.
Me neither.
It's not hard. I would say it's not hard.
Especially considering my degree is in English, and I am, by virtue of that, notoriously bad at math. I don't like math. I am bad at math. And you know what? Let me do the math.
Mm-hmm. It's still just adding and subtracting whole numbers. And for older versions of the game, the hit point totals are low for most of your monsters and your PCs. I think for 5th edition, I don't know. I don't know if their hit points got inflated again. But
I know Professor Dungeon Master's kind of hit or miss with me. There are days where I think he's spot on about stuff, and there's some days where I think he's just kind of up his own ass.
Well, it might just be jumping on a trend too.
True.
Because there are several other YouTubers out there talking about taking out the attack roll.
He passed by my booth at Gen Con last year.
Oh boy. Did you save the air from his passing? Did you have
I'm sure he was passing, but
just have a Tupperware container out there so when he goes by and the breeze goes by, you just have that Tupperware
and then I could
container.
pull a Belle Delphine and sell it for hundreds of dollars online. I know there's at least one YouTuber that would buy Matt Colville's used toilet paper if he had the opportunity. And that makes me cringe hard enough to throw out my back.
Did he say that? Is that what you said? Did he say
there was a YouTube video I saw on Diversity and Dragons where this simp for Matt Colville said, "I would buy that man's used toilet paper." Like, why would you admit that to people?
Wow, that is weird.
Wow, L, that's something I could have lived the rest of my life not knowing.
Anyway, I don't know the obsession for faster. I think, in my experience, there are some people who take a long time to decide what their action is going to be for that round. They daydream or whatever. And I've done it. And I just pick something and go with it. But some people really hem and haw. There are some things about some versions of the game that kind of contribute to this, especially if you spontaneously cast a lot of spells. You want to pore over the manual and figure out which is the best for the situation. If you can do that in between turns and not impact the flow of the game, that's cool, I guess. But I think that there's a number of people who dilly-dally on their turn. I think like I told Randy at least one or 2 weeks ago, I think it has less to do with the system, which these fixes, if you want to call them fixes, are trying to address it on some level. It's not a system issue, it's a player issue. We've played a lot of Pathfinder, and that's one of the most complicated versions of D&D. We've gotten through combats pretty quick.
I've played an entire campaign of Rollmaster. I am the king of patience.
Yeah. Patience is a virtue, and
I have it in spades.
You need to at some point, but you also, you need to encourage your fellow players, or if you're the DM, you encourage the players to get on with it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. No. That's the one. L says, Joe, less dice rolling, aka faster, is for non-gamers. I kind of agree. Why are you playing the game? The game involves dice rolling, and a fair amount of it. That's how you decide your actions. If you just want to cut it all out and narrate everything. And another thing is, that's
Could
another comment. One of these
a Euro-style role-playing game? Are you familiar with the concept of Ameritrash versus European-style board games?
I've heard of European-style board games, but I didn't know about the Ameritrash. Is that Monopoly?
Ameritrash is anything that has like random chance in it, like dice, or like a major theme in it. Euro games are all about like everything has a purpose and there's no random chance for everything. And there's people that kind of turn their nose up at anything that might be considered Ameritrash. I only play Euro style board games. And I was thinking, could you imagine a Euro style role-playing game? I'm sure they're out there,
right?
Where nothing is left to chance, and everything can be meticulously calculated out like chess.
What about Catan? That's a European style game. Would you consider that one? I can't remember if there's dice rolls in it or not.
There is dice rolls whenever
I've only played it a couple of times.
I guess that couldn't be a Euro style game because it has some element of chance in it.
Okay, so Euro style games have no chance.
Mostly no, and they're mostly devoid of a theme too. Like, Catan Colony back there is considered a Euro style game, even though there's like card drafting in the beginning.
Which
But
is
anything
an
like
element of chance. Yeah.
yeah, anything like Hero Quest or like 80% of the board games I have back there, those are all Ameritrash board games.
Ew.
Yeah,
Look
I
down
know.
your nose, why don't you? I think that there's some cool solutions for speeding up the game that don't involve butchering the game. The best one is learning how to play. And
Yeah.
You don't even have to make good decisions, because who can claim that every decision you make in the game is great? Even if you think it is, I've considered all the options and this is the optimal one, and then it ends up being crap because there's stuff you don't know. It's better to just go with it. Stop worrying about speed.
Yeah. Enjoy the game.
Are we going to start?
Don't try to blow through everything.
Right. Do they watch their movies on fast forward?
You kind of wonder, don't you?
I mean, it's weird. I know maybe it's I wonder how much it has to do with a lot of action movies nowadays and the way that they treat combat in them, which is poorly for the most part. It's very choreographed, lots of slow-mo. I don't know that I would say that everybody always, I don't know. I haven't seen a superhero movie in a couple of years, so maybe the newer ones are like this. Do they really just go through and not get even hurt? I mean, you can't say that about a lot of, like, Captain America. He gets beats up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about the more recent versions, but wow. Where is it? I don't know where it's coming from. I don't think we had this issue back in the day when we were playing in high school and maybe early college days. No one we talked about speeding up the game, but it was more like, hurry up. We were pointing at other people saying, you need to hurry up, not we need to stop at making attack rolls or damage rolls or whatever.
I have found that the most length that comes from games is analysis paralysis.
Right, they take too long.
Yeah, like every person who plays a wizard has to be like Patton and has to have a intricate plan laid out. What's the problem with knowing what you're going to do before your turn comes up?
Yeah, especially if it's a larger group, you should have plenty of time to assess what you need to do.
And have two things planned in case the one thing you can't do. It's like,
unless you're a fighter,
God,
in which there's only ever one thing you're going to do, and that's swing your sword.
That one was mine. Okay, well, I guess I got to go after this one now.
Yeah. It's easy. It's, I don't get it. Let's see. Make sure we've gotten all of our points out here. So I think that these no hit point, no attack roll things is really weak sauce.
Weak sauce. The sauce is weak.
I think what all these people are doing is they're saying they don't want to play D&D, which is fine. There's lots of role-playing games out there, and they can be fun too.
It might come from the glut of role-playing games that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Half the people tell me I shouldn't bother making a game myself just because, there are so many out there. I mean, I hear it on all the OSR streams all the time. We have every iteration of the game that we're going to have. Stop making new ones. It's like, what if I want to make something that's different?
Mm-hmm.
The game I'm making wouldn't be considered OSR, but it's something different.
And that's fine. And I'm not going to say that everybody, well, actually, me, I might. I'm not going to say that everybody out there has to conform to my expectations at the table. I'm just saying,
yes, you did. We said this earlier in the stream.
Yeah, we did say this. I'm going to backtrack.
Yep.
A smidgen. Because really, if your fun at the table requires these things, and when you do these things, the taking out the attack roll on the hit points, and you do other stuff that's not really part of the way D&D is run, and you have fun at the table, that's fine for you. I'm just saying I don't agree that speed of combat requires changing the rules. It requires people knowing the rules and getting on with their turn.
Mr. Gwill, you telling me that once is actually what kept my design going. So thank you for that.
Right. So Green Apple just said what I said. I'm just saying I don't think you need that stuff for speed of play. It's just weird. So Mac has been asking about beer at Big Geek Con, and we are in a hotel, and the hotel has a restaurant and bar, so you can drink. We don't have any rules so far about drinking, but please don't conduct yourself in a way that we need to make rules. We're all right. So I'm not saying Mac will. He's drunken stormtroopers can be funny too. TK, whatever that one big word is. Go give that hoe a ticket, Belch. Right. So yeah, have fun. If you drink some beer, that's fine. Even if you have a beer at your table, I don't think there's a problem with that.
Just don't let anybody underage get a hold of it. We got in trouble at Gen Con once because we had a few guests that were running the Iron Crown section, and apparently one of them was underage, and somebody from our booth, not Pointy Hat side, but Iron Crown side, had given this young man some alcohol. And we got tattled on by the booth next to us, who didn't really like us for whatever reason. I don't know what we did to them, but they apparently didn't like us very much.
Well, you probably didn't conform to some standard somewhere.
And we were perfectly friendly with them.
Yeah.
The only time we have ever had a problem with another booth, and we have a mascot who routinely shouts at people walking by.
Well, that's cool. Do you shout inappropriate things?
No, we usually try to keep it PG because the mascot is really there for the younger crowd. But it does draw in plenty of people. We also keep count of how many people we scare the crap out of whenever it moves or talks.
Right. I mean, I don't think we're going to have an issue with folks giving underage folks alcohol when they're not supposed to. If you want to do that in a public place, the liability will be on you, not
we've
not
got
us.
A pretty good crowd.
Yeah. The hotel has a bar, so there's not much we can do about anybody who wants to go out there and drink. As long as you don't cause a disturbance, I don't care. All right. Cal says, I just think of another game channel that reports also on the drinking. It's because it's become a big deal at certain cons. I'm not into that myself. Yeah, I'm not a drinker. Being loud and boisterous and drunk, you do that in a bar, that's fine. And you do that in your home table, that's fine too if you guys get into that. But at a con, we have a very small venue, so please. And we had no problems last year. I don't expect there to be any problems.
Mac Thompson says he plans to do nothing out of bounds in the oppressed Reich of Michigan. Fear not.
Yes, please.
Well, I'm kind of looking for Frau Whitler to bring back the prohibition.
Right, we don't need that. I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that.
No.
behavior issues. All right. Do we have anything else we want to say about what I've called in this video D&D Madness?
No, I think we've pretty much said our piece.
Yeah, I have wondered. I hadn't looked at a lot of video titles in a while, what the trends were, and I didn't do a scientific like search. I just scrolled through the gaming stuff, and it just seemed like those topics popped up. A lot of no hit point, no hit roll topics popped up. So yeah, I don't even know what is trending at the moment, but those
kind of had to do a bit of a last minute. It's like, okay, we got a Band-Aid coming on the show. What do we talk to the Band-Aid about?
Yeah, and we haven't talked about this stuff in a long time on the channel. So, all right. So, I'm going to tell you guys to do stuff, as in
the things.
The things. So, subscribe. Yeah. I'm wanting to do more animated stuff, but it takes work, and my time is limited. So, you get a static image. Subscribe, like, share. Hit the bell notification. Come in here and comment. If you typically listen podcast wise, drop in here every once in a while and throw up some comments. Help out the algorithm. That would be great.
Give us some ding-a-lings or some ching-a-lings.
Yeah. So last week, I said we were going to have a recurring kind of topic. It's not necessarily going to be every episode, but it's the Fixing D&D, which is essentially just us talking about things that we're going to potentially put in a possible game that we might put together sometime in the future. Not tomorrow, not next week, but somewhere down the line.
Hey, buddy.
Oh, David Gwill asked what sort of animated stuff. So I see a lot of folks on YouTube have animated subscribe overlays. And I just haven't done that. And I don't even know if I can do an animated overlay here in StreamYard. I might have to use a different service to be able to take advantage of that. Because when you put up a video, it just covers everything. So I'd have to be something.
Subscriber numbers up.
Right. So I don't know if having an animated thing does or not. They just look cool. And the other animated thing I'm thinking about doing is at the very beginning. So with the sound is good, but it's just a static image that it goes with. So it would be cool if I could put together some short video, or probably not animated, not like a cartoon, but some folks use content that they just mush together in short little couple of second bites. You just mush a bunch of stuff together as a collage, a video collage that goes along with their music. So I've thought about doing that. Oh, David is volunteering. Cool. Like I said, I'm not sure if I can use an animated overlay here in StreamYard, but I will look into that. All right, so
you should totally have like a chyron at the bottom of the screen that just rolls by with random stuff.
Oh, I can do that, but that's a specific thing they call a what is it? Whatever it's called. It's a banner. I can do a banner that animates across the bottom.
MCDM RPG hits $4 million. Kyle Brink still a dink.
Well, I don't fault him for making money, but if he's promising a thing and it's not the thing he's promising, that's maybe something different. And then if he's just taking advantage of folks that will just buy his stuff because it's his stuff, I mean, is that bad on him or is it bad on them?
I respect the hustle. I wouldn't bring something to a Kickstarter unless I had a finished document. And it just needed like artwork and layout. I wouldn't go on there asking for getting. It must be nice to be able to like outdo Monty Cook in the hey, I plan on making this role playing game one day. Do you guys want to prepay for it and not see it in 7 years?
Well, at least I don't know if Monty Cook has Monty Cook done that.
No, he's actually had a finished product by the time he does a Kickstarter for it. But he's the
Yeah,
guy that can say, "Hey, I'm going to poop into this plastic bag. Would anyone like? Would anyone like a sample?
you're right.
Just
Right.
send me $100, and all of a sudden, boom, $4 million."
Right. Yeah, it does seem like that sometimes. But yeah, I don't
It do be like that sometimes.
I'm barely even aware of a Matt Colville. So,
Well, apparently is enough to just say, "Hey, I plan on doing this thing eventually. I don't have a name and I don't really have a game system yet, but want to give me millions of dollars for it?" And people are like, "Yeah, yeah,
and
take my
then
money."
yeah, and how long is it going to take? Or they make some weird, oh, now we can start the principal writing on it after they get the money, which
I
is
hate that.
yeah.
Now I'm kind of addicted to Kickstarter, and there are plenty of projects on there that I'm waiting on like 40 different projects. Now, what I really don't like seeing is when the Kickstarter's over, it's like, oh, we blew through all of our stretch goals and stuff like that, and we showed you all this stuff. Now we can play test it. It wasn't play tested before. Oh, so how long is this going to take? Oh, it'll be probably about 6 months of play testing, extensive play testing. Then we got to do a layout. Then we got to send it to here. And then it's another 3 months for production. And then they always have delays. It's like, oh, our artist like disappeared, fell off the face of the earth, and we don't know where they've gone. So we got to get all totally new artwork. But we already paid the artist, and we can't contact them at all. So now we might need more money, or it's going to be a slower process. And there are role playing games out there that have taken like 5 years to come out, and Mordenkainen and Daddy is working.
Okay, I just want to make a little comment here. Mac has been asking about merch, a lot of questions about merch, and I know we still have a larger mug. That is it a larger mug? Some other thing,
Print some of these.
right?
Some of these.
Well, I guess we could have some of those ready for Big Geek Con, but those are available at Big Geek Emporium, right? Is that where you got yours?
Yeah, go by.
Go by.
No, actually, I helped Randy out with something, and he gifted me one. However, I have bought the Big Geek Emporium mug and the Watsy Tears mug.
Right. So I have to get out there and look at the mugs and see what else I can get for Bruce. Has been waiting for a bigger mug, so we'll see what I can do. And what is the other stuff? Where is it? Where are his things? He's asking about vinyl car decals or muscle tees, tank tops. I hadn't seen that option. I'm gonna have to look because having a muscle tee is easy peasy. It's just a t-shirt without sleeves. You could just buy the t-shirt and cut off the sleeves, and you wouldn't even have to bug us about having one.
No, I haven't now.
We could probably make that happen. The vinyl car decals, though, I'm not sure. That's a different process, but I can look into that. All right. So we were talking about fixing D&D, and the first thing I thought of having on the show here is talking about races, and how we can just do something a little different from D&D, because if we just have elves and dwarves as they are, then that's no different. How about we do something a tiny bit different? And One of the things that are going to be that I think is that we can do differently that might not solve a problem, but make certain excuses into non-excuses. Because with D&D, as someone else on YouTube land has mentioned, it's an odd thing to say that humans proliferate in your fantasy world more than any of the other races, but they have the shortest lifespan. So you have to make a lot of excuses for the other races that don't end up making any sense, really. They're weak arguments. Or you have to say, oh, they have low birth rate. Well, why? How can they not fix that?
All the races are elder races.
Yeah. So I think a good solution to that, and then this guy suggested it, and I think it's a good idea. You just don't have any with giant lifespans. Not the player races. They're all the same, or roughly the same. They don't have to be identical, but roughly the same. And then the way you put your world together, the demographics and whatnot, I think would work it out a little better. You don't have to make a whole bunch of excuses and why are elves long lived, but can't be as high level if you're using the older rule set as some of the other folks. It doesn't make sense.
I was toying with an idea for my own game that the experience points that you've earned are like a form of like soul energy that you use to like advance your skills and all that stuff, and they account for the deeds you do and everything. And that energy actually increases your lifespan. So the great heroes of the world actually live entire lifetimes because they have more of that soul energy than anybody else.
That can make sense. So you have exceptions to the rule, right? It's not like every human lives a long time, but there are a few because of certain reasons, like you're saying. So the heroes. Just go back to XP for gold pieces. Yeah. Right. So elves live 2,000 years, but they need 3 times XP to go up a level compared to a human. You can do that, but it's probably better. Okay. And for your game,
it was already done in first edition D&D, but that's because they took the magic user chart and the fighter chart and they combined them together.
Old D&D, yeah.
Old D&D for the sum of experience points because you were essentially 2 classes.
Right. So there's been a lot of justifications for the humans are the thing, and I just think none of them really hold any water. If you just want your campaign world to be human centric and you don't really use any of those excuses, you say this is the way it is, I guess that's fine too.
This whole XP and gold piece argument that's going on in chat, it reminds me of a role-playing game that is just on the tail end of its Kickstarter life right now. The game is called Heroic Deeds, and I thought it had a really fascinating concept for advancement. All of your advancement isn't done through experience points. It's done through deeds. That each class in the game has several deeds each level. And like one of them could be like rogue in training, and the goal is survive 4 combats. And after you've survived your 4th combat, you get a reward, and that's you permanently gain 2 vitality points. So you've gained a couple hit points or whatever. Or for the wizards to scribe scrolls like 5 times, you actually get a new talent that makes your scribing scrolls better. And every time you do 3 of these accomplishments, you gain a level and you have a whole other selection of deeds that you can accomplish to add on to the, you can finish the other ones too, but you have new deeds that you can do. And I thought it was an interesting form of development
Well,
instead
it
of
sounds
relying on
similar
experience
to.
points.
That sounds a little similar to a game that I can't remember the name of. You just mentioned it not long ago.
David Wilson sounds kind of gamey because then I would just do those things specifically just to get those benefits. The quick start rules that I read through does address that. They have, it's kind of on the GM to say whether or not those are like meaningful advancements, like just getting into 4 combats just to get into 4 combats, and you're like fighting something that's woefully weaker than you. Most likely wouldn't count for your survived a battle. It would have to be a battle in which you had like a chance of dying.
There's stakes, so you can't just start a bunch of bar fights.
Or the cleric can like use your healing ability 4 times. You can't just go in and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to heal these 4 people," and boom, I just accomplished my deed. Now they have to actually have to have some kind of weight. Maybe you have to cure somebody who was dying. You can't just, oh, you're missing a hit point, so I'm going to use cure light wounds on you or whatever.
Right. Oh. Cal says, oh, this is coming off of here. So L says, so deeds are milestones. It's kind of like a milestone in a way.
Yeah.
And then Cal says, milestones pave roads and spread the empire. So yeah, to me, that's a kind of like with the way some people want to do away with attack rolls or no hit points. No, let me get this straight. Attack rolls and just do hits. Or no, damage rolls and just do hits instead of damage rolls. So you're doing kind of the same thing, but instead of experience points, you're doing the things that would normally garner experience points and just spreading out what the result of those experiences do. So across an adventure, you're going to get experience points for fighting. Depending on how the DM runs the game, you might get experience points for accomplishing goals or defeating traps or other things apart from just combat. So
I would like to see more games have like, here's the list of things that fighters earn experience points for. Here's a bunch of things that wizards earn experience points for. And I could see gold pieces for experience points for like rogues, but you would have to have gotten those gold pieces through means of like, pickpocketing or somehow acquiring it, not just, hey, I happen to own a town and collect taxes, or I went to the bar and I like worked as a bartender and got X number of GPs as tips. It would have to be like, these are gold pieces I earned, from the sweat of my brow down in the dungeon.
So how will that affect record keeping for your character? Do you think? How much would that increase, or would it not increase your record keeping? I mean, would you have like a part of your character sheet which is the standard? It would have all the standard things that your class would need to advance in one way or another, either level or with the special powers like you're talking about. You'd have them on some sheet, the back of your sheet, or just a whole other sheet where you would just check things off. Would that be how that works?
Oh, that's kind of like how that heroic deeds does it. It literally has like it looks like a Scantron where they have all the little ovals.
Okay.
And you just kind of fill in the ovals as you check off things.
But do you need a whole other sheet for that, or does it take a small amount of the character sheet?
It takes up a smallish amount of the character sheet.
Small, okay, well, that's fine. I'm just thinking for me, if it really increases how much accounting essentially that you're doing.
What am I being called out on?
I don't know. Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that it just sounded like a lot of more paperwork that you might have to do.
Yeah, and even if is it really any different from, all the extra paperwork from people who just want a little more to their game?
Yeah, I guess. I'm just saying, compared to just tracking your experience points, it's a bit more. It's a bit more.
In fact, at that point, you're not even tracking experience points. Like with heroic deeds, you don't even have experience points. You just have deeds. That's the only way your character gets better.
I'm just comparing one to the other.
Yeah, you are shuffling out one thing for another.
Yeah. So on Discord, David, because the last time we talked about our game and that we are kicking around in our heads, and David asked if we're going to have any material from that game come up in do we have any of that material to share? And I said, we're going to share a little bit today. And I just picked something at random that I'd written up recently. And it's basically taking a few of the D&D races and just modifying them a little bit, in essence, filing off the serial numbers and representing them, not just trying to figure out. And I thought about this, just trying to dream up brand new races apart from human for the game world, and I just didn't see any. I didn't see any real utility in that. For me, I would end up probably just thinking of or recreating things from other games that I already had in my head. So now David asked, and David's leaving. That's funny. So essentially, it's just 5 races. So you have the human, and you have something that's like the elf, something that's like the dwarf, and something that's like a halfling. And then something I did kind of dream up, but it's not anything new. It's just a bigger race. Kind of like, what was it called? There's been a couple of attempts at making a half giant, but not quite as powerful. Half giants were pretty tough back in the day. So let me share. I'm going to decrease the zoom on this so you can see a little bit more. Yeah. Share that with the folks. All right. So humans are human. Ultimate in diversity. I've used that word, so hold on to your hats. And drive.
Unironically.
Unironically. And they can take an unlimited advancement in any class that's not restricted. Because I'm thinking that for the other races, there's going to be tailor-made races for them because there may be restricted. Now, we're not even sure if we're using classes, as Randy and I are kind of batting back and forth the idea of not having classes. But we're not sure. We haven't done a lot of work on that. So that might change a little bit. But their advancement is unlimited in whatever we have, because they're the humans, they're the ultimate in diversity and drive. Like I have written here. And I've also thought perhaps we're going to have something that deals with bloodlines or a legacy or some kind of concept I'm calling inheritance, where they can discover something that makes their character different, or maybe probably more powerful, but something that's optional that the DM can use to add some spice to their campaign. But I don't have a particular name for it.
The One Ring RPG had something akin to, with when you advance, you can have each of the races has like an amount of virtues or like inherited items that are specifically for their race that they can get a hold of.
Right. Oh, and another, I don't have it here that you can see, but the other concept is eliminating something. People are going to probably have a little words to say about this, but these are all considered, all these races are considered the men or the people of this world. They all have somewhat of a common ancestry, but they have diverged and grown somewhat different over time. So,
yes, the dendrophiliacs created the elfin, and
the what?
the dendrophiliacs.
Dendrophiliac? What in the heck is that?
Somebody who has a very, very sick love for trees.
Trees. Oh, okay. Right. So, I'm not sure. I can't remember precisely what I was thinking about when I added that little twist in there, but they're basically all men. All right. So the Alphin or the elf type race, lithe, swift, and alien. So what makes them different is that instead of being aloof, that could be your alien trait, I guess. They're very odd. They're very odd when you compare them to the other races, especially humans. They all have an affinity to nature and magic, tend to be enigmatic. Okay. So you can, if you really want to keep the whole, these guys live a long time, their oddness could be the reason why they don't proliferate very much. What are you laughing at?
Al.
Alf? The alien Alf? Alf the alien? Okay.
No. Al. Al said something. He says he doesn't want to know what Ophiles created the fray.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure where you could be going with that, but anyway. Oh, children. Okay. Stop it. So they're part of their heritage is that they are great out in the wilderness. So once they've reached adulthood, they know enough to survive on their own. The dwarven characters, the dwarf-like characters, are the dwargoots. I don't know how to pronounce that yet very well either, but I found this word out on the internet. I can't remember what language that comes from.
Sounds Germanic.
Yeah. Short and stocky, have affinity for earth and metal, tending toward mining and crafting. But instead of being, the taciturn, don't say a whole lot, dwarf, they're more like the dwarf that Gimli was like. Kind of rowdy, playful. They fight like raving beasts and often compared to wolverines. I have some restricted classes here. I don't know exactly where I'm going with these. They're just ideas that popped in my head as I was writing these down. The Gigan, that's kind of short for gigantic. They're like Andre the Giant, a whole race of Andre the Giants, and woman versions of Andre the Giant.
Gigas is Greek for giant.
Right.
And if you hear him tell the story, it's the origin of the Gygax name.
Oh, really? Giant?
Yeah. Yep.
From the word for giant. Okay. So of course they're big. They have tough skin. They like big weapons. The females make great healers, but the healing that they employ is stinky or bad tasting if you're drinking a potion. But they work very well. I kind of stole that idea from two sources. John Carter of Mars, the Green Martians, the Green Martian women were very proficient at healing. They didn't mention if the remedies stunk or anything like that. But Monster Hunter International, that series, the orc women. Have the orcs have healers, then they're women, and all of their remedies have very dubious and questionable ingredients, and they all stink really bad. So while they work really well, the experience isn't great during the healing process. But the females, this might rankle somebody if this ever gets printed. The females aren't PCs because they are they attach themselves to the men and they don't leave the community because they're needed there to run things while the men are out fighting.
Well, if that rankles some people, well, don't tell them about Middle Earth and dwarves there.
Right.
Because there are no adventure dwarf women.
Right, they stay home. Well, the other reason
it's like for every 50 dwarf men, there's like one dwarf woman. It's something ridiculous like that. The females are like super rare.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, there is something about that. I didn't know that about the women, the female dwarves. Well, the other thing is I'm hoping that this will. I was thinking of a way to make the healers something that you may not need in your party, and it'd be interesting for role playing reasons to have the characters have to carry a wounded comrade off to the nearest Geegan settlement to get some healing, especially if it's particularly bad. And so, I just thought of some role playing reasons to have that in there. Plus, don't like women. You know how us white dudes are.
Yeah.
The Frey are more like the halflings, kind of a combination of halfling and gnome, which I never really got why we had both of them. It's kind of weird.
If you wanted to be truly diverse and inclusive, you could just have another race where it's kind of the reverse of the Gigan.
Right, that's
where the men are the rare ones.
Oh, the men are the rare ones. Yeah, I could do that. So the Frey are the small, sometimes mistaken for children, but their kind of twist is that they like to collect things. So you could say they're kind of OCD, but they just like to collect things. Not Kender, but they use it for purposes that are usually involving money. So they collect things to sell, and they collect information to sell, and they're usually good at doing both because they kind of blend into the woodwork and are able to be in the right place at the right time to hear interesting things or snatch interesting things. And every once in a while you run into a Frey that can drink a whole hell of a lot, even though they're tiny beings. So enter into a drinking contest with the Frey at your own risk. So these are just some ideas that I thought were cool for a game world. They're half baked. They need some work. It's like beta, alpha, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, come on, Al.
Oh.
Come on, Al.
Well, it's missing a letter, but yeah, I guess if you do that. Yeah. Need to buy a consonant. Cal says the female dwarves are the bottleneck in dwarf numbers. Yeah, if you want to do that. Yeah, for Middle Earth, because they're rare. I don't. It's been a long time since I've read any of the Middle Earth material. Is that something that you find out in the Silmarillion, or is that from stuff you can glean out of the trilogy?
You know what? I don't know.
Because I know they mentioned it in the movie, but I'm not sure if that's something they got out of the Silmarillion that they added for extra screen time for Gimli or not. So these will probably change over time, and as they do, the plan is to show the progress on it, like some of the other rules we're going to have, or we are hoping to have. Right.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to, let me get rid of that. Let's move on to Big Geek Con and Big Geek Emporium. There was an issue this week, and in lieu of saying anything about any particular individual, I'm just going to say reviews should be about the products. Anyone who has a beef outside of Big Geek Emporium for personality issues, or you get into a tete-a-tete online, don't bring that into Big Geek Emporium. If you have a review, it should be about whether what the product is about, not whether you like the person or not. The product is concerning. Or
you have to actually buy something to leave a review, right?
Correct. So if you go through the trouble of buying the product and then you leave a review where you just badmouth the person who makes it, it's bad form.
Even though I'd kind of call it a win. You get into a beef with somebody, and it's like, I'm going to buy your product just so I can review it badly. No, I still got your money. Thanks.
Cal, here, I thought the show ended. Okay.
Yes.
Max, somebody did do that. We're going to address that, and I just wanted to start it here where anybody listening to this, when they go buy something, when you put in a review, just review the product. All right. I don't want to squash on anybody's free speech, but reviews aren't a review of the character of the maker. They are a review of the product. All right.
Thank you,
says,
sir.
Patrick, natural born capitalist. And that is a compliment. I don't think we have anything to bring up new about Big Geek Con. Ticket sales are still ongoing. Please grab one as soon as you can. There is a limited amount. Is there anything you need to add or want to add at this point, Mr. Patrick?
No, other than I'm actually making progress on putting out another couple of products for Gen Con this year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Can you share what they might be?
I am expanding Elemental Conflux for like the first time in like years. I got hit by some bolts of inspiration, and depending on how quickly I can work, I can have a brand new card game out. And I am in between all of that doing slow but steady work on my role-playing game.
Cool. So
maybe I could have something playable by Cabin Con.
That'd be cool.
I'm sure by Big Geek Con, though.
Can you have a sellable product by Big Geek Con? Because you might.
That would involve me. That would involve me working very quickly.
Yeah, because
maybe I can pull out a basic set or something.
I don't know if it's still going on. There was a paper shortage for a while, so that made producing things in card stock or board games and all that kind of made their production cycle last a bit longer than normal. So, do you know anything about that?
No, I haven't done a lot of research on what it's gonna. Thank you for reminding me, Al. Yeah, I have that too.
Having a prototype ready by Big Geek Con probably is doable.
Very, very doable.
Because it's not hard to have your homemade cards with the content.
Yep. Either way, I can safely say that Wizard has gained a level.
What do you mean?
Just talking about me.
Oh, okay. Have gained a level. All right. Good deal. All right. So we're going to have links in the show notes for most of the stuff we've talked about today. I'll try to put in all the links we talked about for the videos concerning the madness. And then all of our typical links will all be there. The show is tiny bit shorter.
No, he did not. I'm still on Biggest Geekus.
Okay. Someone waiting for you to get off of here?
No, Jeff just came by and asked if Mordenkainen had been fed yet.
Ah, gotcha. Right. Okay. Let me get some things lined up here. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we'll have links in the show notes. Otherwise, everybody have a good week. Thanks for showing up, Patrick.
Anytime.
Hopefully, I didn't bore anybody too much with our mud sword entry for this week. Anyway, that's all from me. And this is Joe.
This is Patrick.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.